asked a lot, what is my favorite game of all time? And I find that question a little impossible to answer. Because, I mean, there's like so many variables that go into picking a favorite game. So in this video, I'm going to go over my top 10 favorite video games of all time, starting with number 10 and working our way down to number 1. My number 10 of my favorite games ever is Gears of War. Now, Gears of War definitely brought me or made me interested in console shooters. Before, I'd always played just a bunch of PC shooters growing up, and I never found the appeal of them on a console. Like, I remember when Halo came out, everybody thought it was the best shooter ever, and it's like, really? Did you ever play, like, Quake or Marathon or any of these other games on PC? I mean, it's kind of the same thing we've been playing on PC for a while, guys. So yeah, I didn't really get into Halo at all. But Gears changed that for me. Gears really opened my eyes to what the console can bring in a shooter. And also, Gears had this really awesome like environment, and just the overall feeling and the story and the characters all came together to make a really good game. Number 9, I go back and forth with. Sometimes I want to say Super Mario Galaxy, other times I want to say Super Mario Sunshine. Both really, really great Mario games. But then again, when do we ever have like a Mario platformer that's not really good? They're all amazing. So I guess for this one I'm going to say Mario Sunshine. Probably because I played that one through 4 times, where Mario Galaxy I only played twice. But I did get all the stars. So yeah, I'm going to go with Sunshine. Overall, I liked the scenery, I liked the environment because it was a beach and I'm totally a beach girl. Had an amusement park. I liked the story. I loved Shadow Mario. There was just so much about it that I really, really enjoyed. And although Galaxy is an amazing game, I'm going to have to pick Super Mario Sunshine as my number 9 favorite game. Number 8 is a game that I feel that a lot of people overlooked, which is really a shame because it's an excellent game, and it's a game that offers this different type of gameplay and just a different style that we still haven't seen today, and that's Eternal Darkness on the GameCube. Eternal Darkness was this game that put you in the shoes of many different characters in different time periods, and they introduced this really awesome, like, you would go crazy and you'd start seeing things, and the game would really actually mess with you. It would pretend like it was deleting your save, or pretend like a controller is unhooked, or it would go to like the PC blue screen of death. And it was just a really innovative and creative game. Like a game that's so creative that we still haven't seen a game like it since. I would really like to see a sequel to Eternal Darkness. I'm just not sure if anybody could do it right. But if you haven't played Eternal Darkness, and you've got a Wii or a GameCube, overlook the graphics, because come on guys, graphics don't make the great game. Graphics are a bonus. And get Eternal Darkness. It should be really cheap now, and you will not regret it, because it is an amazing game. My number 7 is a game I'm sure is on a lot of people's list, and that's Super Mario Bros. 3. Super Mario Bros. 3 just kind of redefined the whole platform genre. And even today, that game still holds up as an amazing game. I can still play it now and have just as much fun as I did when I was younger. And it was also a lot of fun because it was one of the first games me and my younger sister could play together. She's not a gamer, she really has never been, but we could play Mario 3 together, which was really cool. I'd always play Mario and she'd play Luigi. Or I'd have friends over and we could play together and we would both be able to, hand off the controller to each other and everything. It was just a really cool dynamic, and the game overall just had this special, like, magic to it that made it so much fun. And the fact that a game that's that old still holds up as an amazing game by today's standards, just goes without saying that everybody would enjoy Super Mario 3. Number 6 is a newer game. It's Dragon Age Origins. I'm sure you guys didn't see that coming. I was never a really big fan of any kind of RPG or the fantasy-based style of games, except for Champions of Norrath and Baldur's Gate. I really did like those. But other than that, I had no interest in any kind of fantasy-based RPG until Dragon Age Origins. And there was just something about it that really sucked me in, even though it was kind of like the fantasy-based stuff. It wasn't really thrown in my face like I feel like World of Warcraft or Lord of the Rings does. It has the fantasy-based stuff, and it really shoves it down your throat, where I didn't feel like Dragon Age Origins did. And the whole aspect of the NPC characters and your party members, being able to really have a relationship with them and get to know them, and the pace of the game and the story. I know a lot of people thought the story was silly. I really enjoyed it. And the fact that a lot of people have problems with the graphics didn't bother me at all, because again, I'm not a big, I'm not a graphics whore. If a game is good, if it's got a solid story, great characters, awesome gameplay, and if I have fun with it, I really don't care what it looks like. So that really didn't bother me that the graphics weren't the best ever. I had a great time with the game. I played through it 4 times. I finished all the Origins. And although Dragon Age 2 just didn't live up to Origins, I'm still saying that Origins is in my top 10 favorite video games. Now we're into my top 5 favorite video games of all time. So this is when we get into the ones that I usually, when people ask what's my favorite video games of all time, I tell them a pretty good chunk of these, because these are the games that I would say shaped me as a gamer. My number 5 is Silent Hill 2. I'm a big survival horror fan. The scarier the better. And Silent Hill 2 is still on my top favorite survival horror game list. Like, Silent Hill 1 was amazing, and it was definitely a first of its kind. But Silent Hill 2 did everything Silent Hill did right, but perfected it. Silent Hill 3 was good. 4 was awful. Homecoming, not that great either. And so I'm a little bit curious about Downpour, which will be coming out later this year. But overall, out of the Silent Hill franchise, 2 was definitely the best. They completely got, the whole just creepy feeling of the environment, and just making me feel really uncomfortable throughout the game. There were times I wouldn't even want to go through a door just because I knew what was beyond that door, And also, Pyramid Head is one of my favorite bad guys in a video game. He's just terrifying, especially because you can hear him before you can see him. And when you do see him, he's just a very scary figure with that big-ass blade. So yeah, Silent Hill 2 definitely completely dominates the spot of number 5. Staying with the survival horror theme, we're going to go with number 4 as Fatal Frame. Fatal Frame is still the game I would say is the scariest game I've ever played. And I've played pretty much everything in the survival horror genre that we've seen in America. I've played them all. And Fatal Frame is definitely the scariest. I challenge most people that think that Dead Space is terrifying to play Fatal Frame. They'll play Fatal Frame and they will laugh at the scare tactics in Dead Space, because that's not terror. Fatal Frame is terror. And that game really still just sits with me, and I remember cutscenes from that game so clearly, because at the time, we hadn't seen anything like it before. I mean, we saw a girl get quartered, we saw a girl get a mask that had spikes through the eye holes, slammed on her face. We just saw a lot of brutality in that game, and I loved it. I ate it up. And I love the overall just terror in that game, and it just would jump out and get you, and you have no weapons. You're completely weaponless except for your camera, which you can take pictures of the bad guys. I mean, when you're playing something and there's a really scary-ass bad guy coming at you, you either kill it or you run away from it. You don't try to seek it out and run towards it so you get a picture of it. But in Fatal Frame, you have to, and that's why Fatal Frame is definitely my number 4. I just mentioned brutality in Fatal Frame, so let's go with one of my favorite brutal games, God of War. I have a hard time picking my favorite out of the series, in between 1 and 3. 1, because it was something I'd never seen before, and it really took a mixture of platforming and action-adventure and hack and slash, and just kind of blended it all together and married it so well. And the brutality in the God of War series, and the threesomes, the sex scenes, and all together just come together as this awesome game series. As you know, Kratos is my favorite video game character, and his character alone just dominates and requires so much just presence. I don't know anybody who's played God of War that did not just walk away from it going, oh my god, that game was amazing. The graphics are great. The scenery, the environments are epically huge. I mean, God of War does this great way of making you feel so tiny without you actually being tiny on the screen. They really got it right with God of War, and that's why God of War is my number 3. Number 2 is Bioshock. Bioshock 1 I know had some problems. The main one being you couldn't dual wield, and they definitely fixed that with Bioshock 2. But that problem wasn't big enough to really make me not enjoy the game as much as I did. Bioshock 1 had such creativity that we hadn't seen in a while, and the environments were beautiful. Like, Bioshock really paid attention to the details, like really paid attention to the details. Every little thing in that game was to perfection, in my opinion. Not to mention the story, which completely blew my mind. I don't know anybody that played Bioshock that saw that ending coming. You know, if you haven't played Bioshock yet, what are you waiting for? Play this game. I hope you haven't had the ending ruined for you yet. But nobody saw that coming. It blew all of our minds because it wasn't the same generic type of story we see in so many video games where everything's kind of straightforward. You have little mini boss fights at the end. You have big boss fight, you know, you save the princess. It was so different from that. So different. And it was the music and the setting, the environment, the feeling, and the characters that they somehow were able to get you to really trust and bond to these characters that you had no interaction with except through a little radio. The voice acting, the gameplay, everything about Bioshock was new, it was fresh, it was creative, and it was just done like to the best that they could. And Bioshock will probably always be in my top 5 favorite video games. And all of that together brings me to my number 1 top favorite video game of all time. And I'm pretty sure that all of you out there seeing this coming, but it's Uncharted 2. Uncharted 2 gets my favorite spot on this list because it's the definition of perfection in a video game. Every little detail came together to create this just amazing experience that really blew most of us away. I mean, this game had everything done to the best that we've ever seen. The graphics were better than anything we'd ever experienced. The voice acting was top-notch. The story was compelling. The characters, the character dynamic it felt real. Like these 2 characters on screen, or 3 or 4, or whatever was going on at the time, really felt just so real. They felt like we knew them and we could reach out and touch them, and oh, I'd love to touch Nathan Drake. And the game was just, everything came together and was seamless. It really was the most beautiful, most amazing, just orgasmic experience of a video game from start to finish. I don't know a soul who has played Uncharted 2 that did not walk away just completely with their mind blown. And I'm totally not over-exaggerating here. Uncharted 2 got Game of the Year by everybody for a reason, because it really was the most perfect video game we've seen. Well, that was it. My top 10 favorite video games of all time. You guys might love it, you might hate it, you might agree, you might disagree, but that's okay. Just remember to leave in the comments which games you would have picked in your top 10. I'd love to read them. And as usual, thanks for watching.